David, at the SEC spring meetings, there's been a talk about a couple of models as far as the college football playoff. One is having the top five conference champions get automatic bids and 11 at-large bids. What are the merits of that format?
Well, it's a bit over my pay scale. I don't sit in those types of decision meetings. And the first thing that people should take from it is realize, oh, whoa, it's 16 teams.
Yes.
That's, to me, inevitable. Just listening.
Right.
All I'm doing is listening. So every model that I see equals 16, not 12 or 4 or any other number. So the 5'11" appeal for a coach, if you're a Southeastern Conference coach, where you traditionally may have 5, 6, 7 teams ranked near the top 15 or in it even when the season settles. And so when you do that, there's 5 automatic qualifiers from each of the 5, and then you have 11 by seeding, true seeding. Let's forget anything else, true seeding. So the next 11 best teams, I think coaches have to maybe understand a little more clearly what, no different than like we just went through this with baseball and women's softball, and you need a clear and concise path as to how are they ranking all of this. What formula is this? Just human error? Oh, I like this team. Or do we have a formula that includes strength of schedule and all of the other factors that come into play? So it's going to continue as an argument, but it's going to be pretty quick, which is one of the things that frightens me. And whether people want 4-4, 2, 1, 3, or whatever that is, that is another animal again that you look at as a coach and say, no, wait, we got 4 automatic, but how do we get number 5 and 6 in, which you and I were talking about earlier? If you had 5-11, the SEC would have had 6 teams in the playoffs. In the reality, when you play in the conference like this, and you finish your season and you're a really good football team, and your health is good and you're peaking at a lot of positions, you may be the 6th SEC team in. You can win it all. People got to remember turnovers and just little things that win football games or lose football games. As Coach Bryant used to say, more games are lost than won. And if you watch even the playoffs, you will see that more games are lost. Pay attention to that, folks. So, that's the dynamics of all of this. I find it also interesting, Jimmy, that, we have the college baseball going on. No offense to anybody, but we are so deeply intense in talking about football here at the end of May and the start of June. It's just what it is, and it does mean more. And so this is going to be a lot of speculation and a lot of talk. I hope the powers that be, and where all this falls, there's an implementation committee, but we got more subcommittees. You got to have a big old shovel to dig deep enough to find out. I always tell people, I don't know what I don't know, and those are the things that scare me the most.
We have an exceptional group of attorneys that work here. We're all trying to be better attorneys, be better advocates for our clients, be better people.
It makes me proud to be part of the team when I see how much the attorneys care about their clients.
It's truly one vision. I feel like every single person who works here has that same vision, and that's to treat all of our clients like family.
We've developed such a tight-knit team. Everyone is unified in being selfless in their representation.
The Garza Law Firm. Let us help.
One format that's been mentioned is 4 automatic qualifiers, and if you have 4 automatic qualifiers, then some in the SEC think, okay, then we will play a 9-game conference schedule. What do you think of the merits of that?
Well, let me tell you the first merit of a 9-game schedule. First is fan interest. I know they love it. And to me, and I mean this sincerely, particularly after been doing what I'm doing, I always went into stadiums with police escorts, right? Now I drive my car. I have great respect for our fans, okay? So number one, what it means is that our fan base would be treated to a unique schedule on a yearly basis. It's nothing like a conference game. Let's face it. That's one. The second thing, let's face this too. In this era of revenue sharing and people trying to figure out how are we going to keep this ship afloat, people may think that's crazy, but there's not money readily available for all of this. So when you look at the revenue that creates, what is that number? With television having to buy, that's 8 more games, right?
Yeah, it's been reported that ESPN's offering $80 million more if the SEC goes to 9 games.
Per institution, yeah. I mean, it's a big number if you start looking at the length of the contract, whether it's 2033 or wherever that ends, it becomes a new negotiable number. So I generally have learned what wins from way back when in college athletics is what's best fiscally generally wins with presidents and ADs, right?
Right.
And so I don't think there's a coach that would admit that they would much rather play 9 conference games than 8. I wouldn't if I was a coach. You know, there's a formula to that can bite you. Home game rotation and all of that, and to get it right, you're likely to get it started going to have to go to someplace twice. Somebody is, or some of that will happen. So it's going to cause a lot of controversy. And but what else hadn't in college athletics here lately, right?
Greg Byrne, athletic director at Alabama, said that if you had the 9-game schedule, then you would better preserve some of your rivalries. If you had 8 games, he said, there's a pretty good chance that Tennessee and Alabama would not play every year.
That could happen, and I understand that. The 9-game gives you probably a 3 guaranteed every year, as opposed to having to pick 1 or 2 if you're lucky. But and I do understand that. And again, the stamp of approval I would put on Greg's comment there is that the fans deserve to be heard.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, I remind people around the conference all the time, the reason it just means more is our fans. Okay, don't ever think differently. Yeah. We have the best fans in maybe all of sport. I know pro football has great numbers, but when you look at the numbers, and I get those reports, and I look at what the SEC championship game drew in viewership, and I look, I'm like, oh my gosh. Holy smoke, man. And, it does matter. And what I don't want to see in any of this fiscally, and that's why 9 games, I'm willing to listen, is that I don't want this to be, the cost to be passed on to fan bases. Okay? Yeah. Let's face it. And I don't think anybody really wants to see that happen. And we got to look at the things that prevent that, because our fans have been loyal. I go back to, we used to have recruiting weekends at Tennessee back in '82. We would all be on a bus, old-fashioned recruiting, and then we'd go by Neyland Stadium. And on game day, that's the 5th largest city in the state of Tennessee, Right. And how cool was that? And I know when I went back to Tennessee, I took those kids up to the Smoky Mountains. When I went back the second time, coaching offense, I took our whole offense early one Saturday morning, not telling them where we were going. I took them all the way up in the mountains to what I call Rocky Top. I picked a spot that I knew they didn't know any better. But anyway, great vista. And I said, this is Rocky Top. Yeah. This is why it's sung. Look at this. It's magnificent. And then we got back on the bus. We went, ate, and did some things. And then we went back in the evening to Neyland Stadium. And I made them go to the bottom. And we walked up every step and then up ramps. And we went all the way to the top where the Vols sign was. And I told those youngsters, I said, let me tell you something. This is what people do every Saturday of a home game. They make this same path. They come in here to watch. I said, look how far down there that field is. They come in here to watch you do what you do. You better understand what it means to be a Tennessee football player, brother. And I thought it impacted our guys. That was Eric Ainge and all of those guys. And that may have been the most fun day I had in Rocky Top because their eyes were big, you know, and when you get up by that Vols sign, you see the river, you see the stadium, that will be forever implemented in my brain as a great moment at Tennessee.
Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, voted the best and favorite jeweler every year. These folks are real jewelers, master craftsmen, quality jewelry, unique designs, smart designs, very knowledgeable, friendly, and helpful. Serving West Knoxville for 39 years. We want to be your jeweler. Fleet Tire has been serving Knoxville's tire needs for over 40 years with the best quality tires available, including Michelin and Bridgestone. Owned and operated by Tennessee grads, their tires may not be orange, but their blood sure runs orange. For the best tires made with the best prices, see Fleet Tire. I want to ask you about two other things. When you meet with the college football coaches in the SEC, you talk about personnel and preparation.
That's it.
Yeah. What do those things mean to you?
Yeah, well, here's the thing that's become more difficult is we know that personnel has been, it's gone from old-fashioned recruiting. Personnel used to be hard. Well, you out there ripping, and then Coach Majors always wanted to know what your chances were. And if you said 60-40, you better sign that guy. But you were busting your tail recruiting, and it's become transactional there. We know that part of personnel. The other part is the portal. I still think relationship building is important in coaching young people, but you have a portal, and you're reaching in a portal because you got a group going out, and then you have to balance. You know, what's my best chance to have a roster? I don't love that term. I don't think of college football as a roster. I think of it as young people and, you know, our players. But you want to get that set as early in the cycle as you can. That's why in the old days we signed in February. You kind of knew, and you didn't have them in spring ball like you do now, but you knew what your team looked like. And, you know, Coach Bryant used to say we're only as good as our second team, and that was a real focus of spring ball. And, you know, you knew your personnel, and you could work it. And the sooner you can do that as a coach, and then what separated from me, good coaches, I'd go visit Bill Walsh and Don Shula and all of these guys when I was a young coach and watch them. How do you prepare a team best? You got to get your personnel wrapped up, and then you have to have access to your players that's appropriate. You got to think of mental health and their physical health. But the people that figure out how to prepare your team best, and that's what I tell our coaches. I say, guys, you know, we can all whine, we can all complain. That's not getting anything done. Focus on what you got to get from a personnel perspective. Get your personnel in place, and then have a great year-round plan. It's not just August. It's not during the season. It's not just spring ball. Preparation is year-round. And if we can focus on that, and the sooner we know our personnel, the better job. And then that separates really good coaches from great coaches and average coaches from poor coaches. That's it.
You coached a long time, and I wonder, what is the difference in trying to get a quarterback ready to start if he has spring training versus he does not have spring training?
Right. Well, you know, okay, I'll go back to, let's take Peyton Manning and Brandon Stewart came in. There's no spring practice involved in that. There was no summer meetings involved in that. I couldn't meet with them, you know, so you get them at the start of August, and there's a significant difference. You prioritize what you want them to learn and what the approach is. And so the worst mistake you can make is doing too much.
Yeah. Then you get confused.
Yes, yeah. And you don't want a confused player looks like an unmotivated player, to be honest with you, when you watch film. So getting them in spring ball is extremely important. But let's go away from that true freshman thing And let's take a youngster that comes in, and Eli Manning redshirted his freshman year at Ole Miss. He's another big-time name. A part of the preparation for Eli, he didn't get a spring ball, but he redshirted. And I was testing him, giving him written tests, seeing that he was growing, seeing that he was grasping. I did the same thing with Daniel Jones at Duke years later, and I thought their progress was amazing. And so by the time, I think Eli in his first game, he was something like 18 of 21 for 300 and some odd yards as his first game playing college football. You think he was prepared, you know?
It's pretty
So,
efficient. Yeah.
The earlier start you get, obviously, the better it is. But again, I always thought from our perspective of coaching, it was our advantage. We were, in my humble opinion, we were the kings of preparation. We did it better, everybody. We didn't always do the personnel thing better, but we did the preparation thing better than everybody else. And I don't know how a coach today, I couldn't handle doing all that peripheral and lose focus from me getting a player ready to play to be the very best they can be. Yeah. That's my job, is to take them from where they are to a desired destination, right? That's what you do. You get in a coach to go somewhere, right? Well, that's exactly the same term.
General managers, we've seen that with some college programs now. A number of them have them, some don't. But do you think there's a difference in being, say, a general manager at an SEC school versus a general manager at maybe some other conference?
Yeah. We won't use names. Yeah. But yes.
I was trying to be careful
okay,
with
let's
that.
just tell it like it is. If, say, I'm an SEC head coach and, you know, those guys have the mentality I got, that general manager's working for me. I understand why. I probably would have one if I were a head coach right now, because I need to be focused on all those things from a preparation standpoint. I'm going to participate certainly in the personnel, but it's such a big old circle of personnel and focusing on what's happening in the portal and overseeing your recruiting operations. And then, God forbid, now we're going to have a salary cap. Okay? So I don't want to be sitting by a calculator as a head football coach running numbers on a calculator. So that's the position as we're starting to hear it and see it in our league, and they're certainly going to have a place. It allows a football coach to be just that. And again, a football coach, you do oversee everything. You oversee the training room. You oversee the equipment room. You oversee the academic process. You oversee every aspect of recruiting. And, you know, it is a big portion of it now has become so complex with name, image, and likeness, with a portal, with a revenue share that's going to have to be documented and everything. Whew, man, you need a bookkeeper too, you know. But that general manager will have to oversee all of those things, in my opinion, or a coach is going to lose his effectiveness as a coach.
David, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jimmy. I appreciate you.
A.G. Hines Company. They've been around for over 100 years, selling building materials since anyone can remember. Gambusa's Barbershop, Knoxville's award-winning barbershop where traditions and trends blend. You can get classic cuts to razor-head shaves to contemporary styling, all at a great price. You'll leave feeling great and looking even better. Gambusa's Barbershop, where men belong.